It's my pleasure to introduce our panelists for this first breakout session, helping you build the business case for sustainability. Erin O'Hern, International Advocacy and Regulatory Counsel from the Industry Trade Organization World Council of Credit Unions, is going to moderate this terrific panel for us. Erin is based in Washington, D.C., and is a UIS Summit veteran. Thank you for your commitment to United in Sustainability, Erin, and for facilitating our panel today. We're also pleased to have on the panel Carlos Calderon, President and CEO of the Organization of American States FCU, longtime UIS network partner, super friend, and we're glad that he can be here with us today after co-hosting last year at their beautiful facility down in Washington, D.C. We also have Garrett Chappell, the founder of Pasqueflower Consulting, which focuses on credit union sustainability. And joining us virtually, we have Steve Baker, head of facilities at Your Neighborhood Credit Union in Ontario, Canada. Welcome all. Erin, over to you.
Thanks. And I wonder, is there a video to get started here? We've got just a great selection of panelists today, so I think we'll let each of them go ahead and introduce themselves, just share a little bit of background about what they're doing today. And I might have Steve and Garrett start, and Carlos can wrap us up for the introductions to lead us into the video.
Okay. I'm Steve Baker. I'm Director of Facilities and Sustainability for Your Neighborhood Credit Union in Kitchener, Ontario, up in Canada. I've been in this role for the past 2 years. Heavily, the beginning of our focus for sustainability has been mostly on our Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, and that's part of what I've been leading. And we are getting into our Scope 3 emissions now.
Garrett Chappell. I am the founder of Pasqueflower Consulting. I have been working in the credit union sustainability space for a few years now. I have also primarily in Colorado in the U.S. I've had experience starting multiple sustainability programs from the ground up, and I definitely am highly motivated by the potential that credit unions have for this work. It's a very natural fit, and I'm glad to see all of you here.
Okay, good afternoon. Once again, I would like to thank you and FCU for organizing the 7th United in Sustainability Summit. I know it's a major task and a project, so we are very fortunate to have someone leading the efforts. I was personally inspired back in 2019 when I came to my first United in Sustainability Summit here at the UN, and we have been involved since then. It's been a great journey, a learning and developing one. And today, one of the tasks that we have in our hand is to show the members' perspective on sustainability. So why is this an important business approach? Not necessarily just what is good for the planet, but also how our members are seeing this. To that end, we have prepared a short video. It's going to show some of the perspectives from all of the people we have interviewed. There are consumers at random. Some are members of various credit unions. So you can see what they think, and you can see how important it is. After watching the video myself, I realized once again and reaffirm our commitment that sustainability is definitely the right path for credit unions at all levels, credit unions that are beginning the process and credit unions that are already much further into that. And hopefully today we can give you some ideas on how you can begin and be part of that. And like John Lewis, UNFCU CEO, said earlier, maybe sustainability can be the differentiator for credit unions in the financial markets. And I hope that after we finish today, you will be as inspired as I was back in 2019. Thank
Oh, you hit the right guy.
Really quick question. Do you care about sustainability?
Yes.
I mean, of course I care. I think everybody should.
I do. I really do.
It's my number one fear. You'd have a hard time finding someone who said that what we do now doesn't affect the future.
I don't think about it as much as I should. It definitely should be on the forefront of my mind, but I don't know. I feel like we're trapped in this system where you have to go to Walmart to get something.
When I think of sustainability, I think of survival.
Well, it just means taking care of the environment and being judicious about our resources. It's a lot about just consumption awareness, making sure we're getting our uses out of the things we have.
There are only limited resources. This is our planet, this is our Earth, and we gotta make everything last as long as possible.
A society or a peoples who depend on themselves to get the resources that they need.
We recycle, we try to thrift and reuse things.
Try to limit single-use plastic.
Find vintage items and reuse things that, would just be thrown away.
I'm pro recycling, big green team.
Being conscious about where our waste is going. I feel like we all lived a little bit more sustainably, then we could actually put a dent in climate change and change things.
I think sustainability is incredibly important because if you don't think about it, then humanity ends. A little too dramatic.
As a species, we've been here the blink of an eye. It's whether we sustain ourselves, whether we exist.
I really believe in capitalism, but I believe in environmental economics at the heart of it, and we should be assigning the true cost of the degradations that are being put onto our world, our community, our society. We just are mindful about doing business with organizations that care about sustainability as well.
If the choice is between somebody making a positive impact in the world and not, I'm going to choose the, one that is.
If you had credit unions, banks, whatever it were, and you would line them up and they all offered the same type of services and you were going to get the same amount of excellence from them, but one had sustainability as part of what they cared about, then I would choose that.
Having companies such as credit unions trying to do their part to reduce their effects is a great way to start. And as more and more places start to do things like that, we're going to start to see some sort of impact.
I love being part of a credit union. I've been part of a credit union since I was 18 years old. I love it because it's so personal. It just feels like our money is safe with our credit union.
I do enjoy being a member there. They helped me a lot to get an auto loan. Well, I got a car loan through a credit union, so I felt like that was a good way to do it instead of maybe like a bigger bank that, you don't have any personal connection with.
You try to make small short-term changes to have a larger impact.
I want to leave the world better for my children.
I want to live in a world where I can get up in the morning and not be affected throughout my day by the things that were done by others in the past.
Sustainability is about making smarter choices.
Better practices across the board and people really caring from the bottom up.
I think everyone has to do it because if you don't, you're not looking out for the future.
Go green, be better, make this world a better place, not just for you, but for the future and for the future generations.
UIS Federal Credit Union. I think just right before we jump in with our first question here for the panel, we did, as we meant to discuss this topic beforehand too, we did want to put a challenge out to everyone at the conference here today to be thinking about, what is one action item you can take in the next 30, 60, 90 days? This is the session on building the business case and really moving things forward. So what's one item, just to be thinking about it as this panel of experts is talking about their experience, what's one example, one thing that you can take away to really take back to your own organization? And so with that, I think we're going to jump into our first question. I know time is tight today with this particular panel, but this first question, it's a big one, but we want to make sure that all three panelists have a chance to jump in and answer. So we really want to talk about how you've been leading your organization's journey on sustainability. So what tools, resources have you found helpful, especially when it comes to building the case, the business case for your board, for your members, and for your staff? Have there been any particular tools, whether it's research, data? How has that journey been? I know it's a big question there, but would love for maybe Carlos, could you kind of kick us off here, and we'll have all three folks jump in.
So, as I mentioned, after coming back from my second the Sustainability Summit back in 2019, we began to develop our journey, and we structured that in about 4 steps. But we used some of the resources, other contacts, other people that were already on board, and obviously the UNFCU was a major resource. And now we have the resource center, the Summit Resource Center you can use. But reaching out to other colleagues, other people, is very important. So no one has the perfect model. Everybody has to develop their own. That's customization to your own institution, and then you have to go through that. But for us, was just sitting down and analyzing what we can do first immediately. The first step was looking into our own operations and see how we can become a bit more sustainable in our own operations at first, and then we looked into products and services, and then look into vendors and other reachable links.
And Garrett, has that been similar to your experience?
Yeah, so if you're thinking about what do you need at the beginning, right? How are you communicating this internally? How are you getting your support? I want to establish, I think what's been mentioned a few times already, but you need to root your sustainability efforts in the truth of sustainability's intersectionality and complexity. So if you go to your leadership and say, we as employees want to do this kind of program, we want to pursue sustainability, and you root it only in saying, like, we can save money on our utility bills, right? That's kind of a common entry point. If you don't at the beginning mention, but by the way, it's a lot bigger than just utility bills, you're going to face a lot of pushback when all your LED lights have been changed and you want to continue doing more, right? So from the get-go, establish triple bottom line methodology when talking to your leadership.
That's great. Yeah, and Steve?
Yeah, just to echo what Garrett and Carlos said, that's the transition we're working through right now, actually, is we've done all of the low-hanging fruit projects, LED lighting and small upgrades like that. And now it's really making the business case with the information we have now about we're changing furnaces and going to low temperature heat pumps. They might not have great paybacks anymore, but our environmental impact is a lot greater than just saving money now. And then even we were trying to grow sustainability within the culture, and we created a green team. I know lots of credit unions have done that as well. And then knowledge sharing. Come to conversations like this, reach out to your networks. I'm part of the CCOA has a climate action working group, and we meet, and it's knowledge sharing for information and things like that as well.
Yeah, I think those are great examples of kind of looking internally, what can be done, how do we build this business case. Certainly, I think that extends to partners as well. And so I wonder if the panel could share a little bit about how you think you can use partners to effectively help support the sustainability journey and build to that buy-in. And I think we might have a couple of slides, so I think we might let Carlos kick this one off as well here.
So as far as partnerships, there are different ways you can approach that. The first thing that we did was to ask all of our providers, QSOs, anyone that we do business with, what is their sustainability statement? And you'll be surprised, even large organizations do not have one. And sometimes in a couple cases, we actually help them develop one so they can be more competitive as they provide bids and all of that. So that's the first low-hanging fruit that you can use and start obviously pushing the concept forward. Other partnerships and other areas that you can work with. In our case, we're a second trade union based on about 20 different groups that we serve. So we work with the organizations themselves to see how we can work on their existing sustainability projects, and how can we piggyback into that or help them at least push that forward through the employees or any other programs. So looking for partnerships is very important. Now, if you're community-based, I'm sure that you might want to look into your community itself, partner with the government, local governments, or even other organizations.
Yeah, so partnerships for us, I tie to when we were looking for recs for our credit union. We are a small to mid-sized credit union in Ontario. So we had a hard time finding a partner that would work with us, and we were going to plug the partner. We ended up partnering with Bullfrog Power. And with them, we realized like how expensive recs can be for a small credit union our size. So we approached them with if they would allow other credit unions to join us in this and really show our cooperative principles, especially Principle 6. And we created the Good Neighbor Cooperative Pricing Model, and we've had 4 credit unions in Canada join us with this. And we've done 438 tons of CO emissions reductions between the 4 credit unions, and this is across Canada. And we have more credit unions that are planning to onboard in 2025.
Kind of that spectrum of examples to kind of work from when we're thinking about partnerships and different areas that we can explore.
Well, this particular slide speaks to our commitment with partnerships, partnered with other groups. So we're able to plant a tree per each person that moves their statements online. And last year alone, we were able to plant 3,000 trees in the rainforest. So getting those, thank you. Getting those partnerships in place can go beyond your close network and trying to find areas like that.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I think that's also a great example too of what OAS has done. I know we've had conversations in the past around making sure that you're extending outreach into the community as well and thinking through, okay, we want to look internally, we want to look externally to partnerships, and then we want to think about demonstrating outreach in ways that can make an impact with our community. And I think, Garrett, too, if you've got an example around maybe a great way to extend outreach or the importance of outreach within the community and what that means for the sustainability programs. Go ahead, 3 or 4. I promise we will get on the right slide here. There you go, perfect.
Look at that pretty slide. Okay, so most credit unions are going to have an existing community outreach program in some capacity, right? It might be just philanthropic, it might be more event-based. What you're able to do if you're trying to, again, show your leadership, show there's a general community interest for sustainability is you use that program to kind of like be your gateway drug into sustainability. So this is a case study of a mid-sized credit union in Colorado that I've been working with for the past few years. And I'm just gonna do a real quick overview of what their impact has been in that time and how one could potentially leverage that impact. So they are focusing primarily on sustainability events. So things like free electronic waste collection for their members, free household hazardous waste collection for the members. These are things that people would typically have to pay a lot of money to dispose of. And the credit union is coming in saying, we will alleviate this cost burden for you to do this environmental effort, right? In doing so, for the past few years, they've collected just over 50,000 pounds of waste that would otherwise have been a hazard within one's home or a hazard within the environment. Again, all for free. And then my personal favorite of the programming is they've been doing free bike repair drives. So you look into your member community, you find an area that is typically lower income, you find an area that has a higher percentage of children, potentially, and you go and repair bikes for free, right? What this is doing is it's improving air quality, it's improving quality of life, and again, it's alleviating a financial burden. How you can use these events is kind of twofold. One, 50,000 pounds of waste doesn't just come from a few families, right? Like, this is a lot of people showing up for these events. So you're able to take that attendance and translate it for your leadership and say, people show up when you tie your brand to sustainability. People are engaged when they see their credit union doing things that they see value in, right? So you have just the sheer presence of these people to kind of feed the goal, right? The other thing you can do is prove that these do make the credit unions money, right? So at the bottom there is it is a minimum estimate, but what we can track is that events tied to sustainability has made this credit union just around $500,000 in about a year and a half in deposits. And I say minimum because there's some holes in the reporting and, it's not perfect. But this functions as a proof of concept, right? This credit union doesn't have green products. They don't really have robust sustainability marketing, but they have these events. And you can say, look how much money you're making by kind of starting, right? You're at the beginning with stuff like this. Let's use that creativity to understand how much more could you gain by further investing, by further having products, by having a more robust strategy. So that's kind of how you can start to speak the language of the leadership.
Yeah, thanks, Garrett. I think that's an interesting example where you look at what's needed within the community and really tailor that within your outreach program. So I think that's a great example of characteristics too that you can look and apply in other different scenarios that may be in a different community that may have different needs, but still thinking about those baseline characteristics and the benefits of doing that to contribute to your overall program. I want to make sure as we're going through here, and I encourage all the panelists to continue to kind of build off their past examples and their past comments and kind of what they've heard from each other, but to really think about, we're here to talk about how do you kind of start to build that business case? How do you build that support internally as well? And then how do you turn that support into outreach to the community and to partnerships in the community to continue to build that? So I'm going to ask each of the panelists to opine on this particular question, but is there a key lesson that you learned kind of through this process that you want everyone here to consider when they're starting or working to advance their strategy? We're all at different points, but I think it's helpful to be able to learn from each other's journey and think about, okay, if I could go back, what would I wish I would have known at the start of that journey, or something that you think would be helpful for this group to know? So, Steve, I might kick it off to you here to start us off.
For me, the motto I go with now is slow is fast and fast is slow. When I first got tasked with the role, I just tried to jump into a lot of projects, and then there were some that were poorly executed. We revamped garbage and recycling programs, and we had staff upset because they're losing their personal waste bins. They didn't know why, through improper communications and things like that. Happy to say they're very happy with it now. We've rolled out organics and everything, and through organics programs, we've diverted 550 pounds of organic waste from the landfills with doing that program. But communication is big, because even when it gets down to the members start asking our frontline staff about the things we're doing. And if you can't communicate to them, they can't communicate to the members. And then it just becomes a vicious cycle, and then just causes more aggravation on both sides, and hard to move projects forward that way.
I think the message I would like to leave is buy-in. You want to get the buy-in from your leadership first, ensure that the board is on board, your upper management understands what you're trying to do, build the business case, but also the buy-in from the rest of the staff. So you want to do something that's not in a silo and be the only hero, but you want to bring everyone along. And I think that's a lesson, obviously, that we learned, and it's important.
Yeah, I would just echo that. I don't like speaking in absolutes, but you're not going to get far without commitment from your leadership. you need to have top-down action to make sure that the work kind of becomes everybody's job, right? Just like member retention is kind of everyone's job. Business solvency is kind of everyone's job, right? Sustainability has to be understood to be everyone's job. Otherwise, it's, oh, so-and-so is going to go take care of it in the corner and I don't have to worry about it.
Great. Yeah, I think those are all great comments to kind of continue to consider and take along with our journey. You know, the one thing I would add too is to be aware of how important the work is that you're doing. I know that you'll have a great kind of group of champions within the credit union, but sharing that message broadly, I know Carlos made a great point around getting that buy-in, because the work that credit unions are doing within their local community has such a large impact worldwide. So I just wanted to share quickly to give folks perspective as we're talking about the credit union industry and the work that we can do in communities. So the World Council recently just released its newest statistical report around the numbers and the work that credit unions are doing worldwide. So worldwide, credit unions are serving over 411 million members. We have in over 100 countries, over 76,000 credit unions, and that represents 3.7 trillion in assets. So while we are focused, and that is a whole network of credit unions focused on their local community and the impact that can have worldwide. Globally, I think it is just important for us to continue to recognize the work and the examples that we're seeing here, and the advice and the information shared around what can be done in the local community really adds up globally across the world. So appreciate everyone's kind of continued comments there. I have some additional questions that I'm eager to ask, but I want to make sure that we are mindful of allowing others to ask questions. So I might jump in for some additional Q&A there.
You're good with time. I know we've got some virtual attendees who are here with us too, but also that sounds like if anybody in the room is feeling inspired and would like to ask this panel some questions, now would be your moment.
Folks here on a panel together who have kind of lived this journey. What are your members saying around? So we talked a little bit about kind of executive buy-in. We heard that message this morning and the importance of that. I think the video was a great kickoff into that part of the conversation in terms of, you know, are you gathering information around what members feel? Are you meeting any resistance? Is there anything you're doing on this journey to continue to make sure that there's buy-in either from members or from a local level with the organizations that you're working with?
Sure, I'll start. We haven't really done a full survey yet on our members' views on this. However, the feedback that we're getting, it's very positive. People are very happy that we are engaged in sustainability. My kids are members, and the first questions they ask is, how much are you doing in that? What are you doing? So we get this feedback not just from the family members, but for all of the members that belong to the credit union. It is a very positive and an impactful action and situation to be in.
Yeah, I've really only seen positive comments from members in the past. I do know, again, from what I was saying with the financial reporting, sustainability events were the highest generator of business accounts for this credit union. So we know people are responding. And we've also done public polling at, you know, like an Earth Day event or an Earth Month event, you know, somewhere where folks are going to be kind of concentrated in passion. And you ask them, what do you want us to do? What do you want to see from us? Would you move your banking relationship because of X, Y, and Z? And having done that a few times, the results are very consistent that the market is looking for a home that they know is sustainable and that they know is reliable and that they know they can trust the marketing and the messaging.
Yeah, Steve, anything to add there?
Similar to everyone else, we've had some really good positive feedback from our members, especially when they see our teams out in the communities. We've been doing plant a tree events. and things like that. And they're asking if they can join. And we've had members even suggest different organizations for us to align with. Like we found it was Community Bank Green out of the UK we've joined, and they rate different financial institutions on their sustainability efforts. It's actually quite funny when you look at their website. They have like emojis for every bank and how green they are and how angry the face gets for like a lot of the bigger banks get. But and yeah, we've had a lot of positive feedbacks, and members keep coming back to us with more. And we've picked up a few members different ways, even becoming B Corp certified too. So.
Terrific. I think that's great to hear that, because that is one of the areas that sets credit unions apart, right? We've been talking about that today, the cooperative principles, but then thinking about how do we really lead the charge on sustainability, and to see that kind of message from the members and that impact. I think one of the key areas that can come up a lot as folks are trying to figure out, okay, where do I start? How do I build this business case? What's my next step? Maybe we've started to have some of these conversations, but I think one of the key themes that's come through in the past is thinking about how you integrate that into your overall strategic plan, right? That it's not siloed off from as just one independent, maybe short-term project or initiative, but how we continue to kind of weave that into our strategic planning and the strategic direction of the credit union. So I'm wondering if there are any kind of untapped areas that credit unions can explore to strengthen their efforts to kind of weave sustainability into the strategy, or any good examples that you've seen or things that you've kind of experienced going through this process?
Yeah, my advice here might sound a little contradictory, but I actually have seen more success when organizations don't have one dedicated sustainability professional. So, as I alluded to earlier, when you have just one person who's kind of at a lower level, it is a silo. And people are allowed to kind of forget about things, right? And then that person is really trying to push water uphill, and it's very difficult. I think back to one of the universities in Colorado. They made a very conscious choice to not have a sustainability department because they wanted to make sure building decarbonization was facilities' job. And measuring things like, Scope 3, Category 15 was the finance team's job. And of course, they have oversight, right? You have someone at the top directing, but that's going to be like a chief sustainability officer. That's going to be some level on the executive side. You can steer from up there, but it's really important that everyone understands we all have a role to play here. And by doing that, you also get a little more engagement, and it sets you up for longer term success.
I will add to that on those comments, and in our case, we formed a green committee that's combines staff members and volunteers, and we discuss all of the issues and ideas there. Obviously, this also has to be part of your strategic vision and operations there, so you can move that forward. But one key element, I think it really gets you at least one or two steps ahead, is if you're able to measure your impact. In our case, we're able to measure, even if it's a small one, it doesn't have to be the entire program, just one product, and you're able to measure the impact that's having. It's going to make a huge difference in your approach. So in our case, I think we found one of the products that we have, and then we were able to measure that and project that and report that back to the membership and obviously to staff and management. And that alone was very important.
I'm told there's a question in the audience. I didn't see the hand. We have a question? Yeah, please.
It's kind of like the best kept secret, credit unions. I was wondering how much of a challenge is it that there's a lack of awareness of credit unions, and that helping people help each other is what you are, especially in light of the incredible amount of empty promises being made by branding in financial services?
So I actually see it less of a challenge and more of a fantastic opportunity, because it's true, a lot of people don't know the difference between a bank and a credit union. To the point where my friends and loved ones always say I work for banks. I'm like, no, don't pin that on me. When you're able to really talk to people and communicate the differences and understand, like, this is cooperatively owned, this is a not-for-profit. Credit unions do not do things like your current big bank, insert any big bank here. I see people light up, and I see people go like, I didn't even know this was a possibility. And you immediately have, and that's on the credit union industry to maybe advertise a little better. But you immediately have this way in, and you have a way to really get into their emotional core pretty quickly when you say what a credit union is.
You said it so well, I cannot add anything to that.
Steve, is there anything you want to add to the?
Just, we now have members seeking us out now because they're starting to understand what the cooperative values are and the values of a credit union, and just throughout like our own regional advertising, the differences that we're setting between us and the banks. So we're starting to see a small uptick in that, and even in the younger generations, like they're coming to look for us for these reasons, that it's their core values now as well. So.
Yeah, I think those are great comments too. And, I might add as well, just from a global perspective, I think sometimes it can be challenging, that kind of not understanding, especially from, as you're talking to regulators, as you're trying to make sure that regulations and all of that are appropriate for the actual credit union model, which is very different from the banking model and structured. And then as you look at what programs you want to be able to provide to your community in terms of sustainability, to be able to share and be able to actually be in a regulatory environment that enables that, I think certainly is a challenge. So I think I do hope, though, that as credit unions and organizations are making these huge strides into supporting their sustainability journey and supporting the sustainability of their community, that they're also using that as the opportunity to share the credit union message and to share that story. I think there were great comments on the panel too about integrating the strategy of sustainability into your overall kind of business development, to make sure that it is kind of spread throughout your organization, but then also lifting the entire organization to make sure that those in your community that are now maybe aware of your sustainability efforts are aware of the other products and services that are specifically designed to help them as a local financial institution in the local community. So great question to ask. I think that is constantly a credit union conversation. I think credit unions worldwide are a little too humble about the work that they're doing, but are continuing to figure out the right way to message that and share that in order to further their sustainability efforts. I know we have just a couple minutes left, so I just want to make sure that everyone on the panel has an opportunity if there is something you wanted to share, and no pressure. Steve, I may start with you, but if there is anything that you wanted to share that you may not have had to have a chance to share yet during this discussion, I want to make sure that we've covered everything in the short time together that you were hoping to cover.
Not too much to share, just to reiterate, I hope everybody can take something away from this conversation and start with one thing. Mm-hmm. Even if it's a small thing at your credit union, find one thing that's executable and easily to do for your staff, and just start building the engagement around sustainability. Just as an example, with us, how we started, we did a pollinator garden at our corporate office, and we thought we'd get 5 people showed up, and we had 15. And then it just kind of started from there, and we had different events and just kind of it blossomed from there with using the pollinators. So it was just find your one thing that you can bring back to your credit union.
That's great. Garrett, anything else?
Yeah, I think so. I have a feeling that most of the people in the room or most of the people on the call would see themselves in like an advocacy role within their organization. I would just say really ground and root yourself in the purpose of the work you want to do, because advocacy is exhausting. Advocacy within an organization that silos you is exhausting. Events like this are a really good way to recharge and refuel. But if you hold the truth that you are doing this work for the betterment of your community, your family, society as a whole, and that is your guiding post, you will go farther than if you're trying to do this to change people's minds, right? Like trying to control how they think.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Carlos, we'll give you the last word here.
Right, thank you. A couple of things. Before I go any further, though, I do thank you, Josh Weinstein, president of Creative Coop, who has been a very loyal participant of the summit for years, who has helped us put the video together. So thank you, Josh. And I think my words are just simply a statement. We believe that being environmentally friendly today, the concept of sustainability, is what the diversity, equity, and inclusion was 10 years ago. So we're on the right path. Keep it up and get involved. Thank you.
One more round of applause for this great panel. Thank you so much, Erin. Thank you, Garrett. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Steve.